Te damos la bienvenida a COMCE Talks, un espacio para conversar sobre comercio exterior, inversión e innovación con los líderes que hacen posible nuestra misión: llevar al mundo lo mejor de México y traer a México lo mejor del mundo. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos sean a un nuevo episodio.
Welcome back to COMCE Talks, the podcast of the Mexican Business Council for Foreign Trade, Investment and Technology, COMCE. Today, we're focusing on a relationship that is gaining strategic weight in Mexico's global agenda: Australia. Mexico is Australia's leading trading partner in Latin America. This position not only reflects steady growth, but also a high level of trust and complementarity between both economies. What makes this relationship particularly interesting is its structure. Mexico brings strong capabilities in advanced manufacturing, while Australia is a global leader in sectors such as agriculture, mining, and education. To address these topics, we are honored to be joined by two very distinguished guests, Her Excellency Rachel Mosley, Ambassador of Australia to Mexico, and Nigel Warren, General Manager for the Americas at Austrade, the Australian Trade and Investment Agency. Ambassador Nigel, we are delighted to have you here. And joining us as well is Susana Meza, our very talented president of the Mexico-Australia Bilateral Business Committee at COMCE. She will be guiding today's conversation, so welcome and thank you for your support, Susana.
No. Hi, Susana. Hi, everyone. We are very happy to be here once again in COMCE Talks. Now, Ambassador Mosley, Mr. Warren, it's our privilege to have you here. So let's going to talk about CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership, or TPAT in Spanish. It's significant to remember that this CPTPP connects 600 million people or million of consumers, and at the same time it represents more or less 14% of the total of the global GDP. But before talking about CPTPP, we think it's very important for our audience to know more about the remarkable work that you have been doing as Ambassador of Australia in Mexico. So, Ambassador Mosley, what have been the most important objectives of your diplomatic mission in strengthening, the economic, trade, obviously political relationship between both countries, and especially in the context of the 60th anniversary of bilateral relations between Mexico and Australia?
Well, thank you, Susana, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you, including with a very esteemed colleague, Nigel Warren, who's joining us from New York today. So thank you so much for making the trip down to Mexico. I think in response to your question, including in organising a whole range of events to celebrate 60 years of bilateral relations between Australia and Mexico, it's really sort of been obvious to me the comprehensive nature of our bilateral relationship. Not only the sort of close political ties that we have, cooperating across a whole range of multilateral institutions, whether that be the UN, MICTA, G20, APEC, CPTPP, OECD, and so on. But we cooperate on so many other fronts. On the cultural front, we work together on gender issues, on Indigenous issues, which is a key thing we have in common, are very important Indigenous populations. So we're cooperating across the board on so many different things, but trade and investment is a really key pillar of our relationship. Mexico is Australia's largest trading partner in Latin America, and we have a huge amount of Australian investment here. We're very proud to have some of Australia's most, respected and renowned companies. Macquarie, for example, is a big investor, not only in infrastructure but in renewable energy. We have Woodside Energy, as you know, investing probably, I think it's the largest Australian investment ever in Mexico, $7 billion US. They're working together with Pemex in an ultra deep water project in the Gulf of Mexico. I had the pleasure of seeing the governor of Tamaulipas sign the first pipe that's going to be laid on the floor of the Gulf of Mexico, and many others in technology, in the defense space, in medical instruments. There are lots and lots of examples of Australian companies working here. So I think to answer your question, we have a comprehensive bilateral relationship. We work together in many different fora. We have a lot of shared values, and it's been my honour to help to build and strengthen and deepen that engagement during my time here.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Nigel,
Yes.
building on the ideas that Ambassador Mosley just mentioned, could you briefly explain what Austrade is and what guarantees and mechanisms they offer for investors and entrepreneurs, particularly in Mexico?
Sure. And thank you for the invitation. Every time I'm in Mexico, many parts, I come away excited and looking at the opportunities being really positive. But as Susana mentioned, we are Australia's trade and investment agency. So we focus on supporting Australian companies to grow throughout the world through trade. And we also attract investment to Australia. So we help in a very bespoke way. We can help Mexican companies actually look at the landscape, the commercial opportunity, a particular industry that they might be looking to do business in. We can help them with partnering. We can help them understand regulations. We can help them look for workforce. Think of it as a practical, tactical support for a Mexican company as they're trying to understand what the investment opportunity might look like. We have a great team here inside the embassy. We're part of the embassy here in Mexico City, led by the ambassador. And so we're really focused on looking to work with the those Mexican companies that might invest in Australia, but also potentially could see an opportunity to export into the region as well. And we focus on many of the sectors that Mexico is very strong at. We mentioned agriculture, technology, advanced manufacturing, medical technology. I think Mexican companies in those areas are really well suited to what's a growing market in Australia.
Right, thank you.
Well, all these points that Nigel had expressed are very important in order to open the vision, in order to think out of the box. And now, Ambassador Mosley, I think it's the moment to talk about CPTPP. Last year, Australia held the presidency of CPTPP. And we want to know that during this time, it was suitable to have more complementarity between both economies, and we want to know in the future also if it's possible to have more to go forward in this complementarity, and in which sectors we can do that.
Okay. Yes, it was our great honour to preside over the CPTPP last year with ministers meeting in November in Melbourne. It was a very significant meeting from our perspective. We had sort of three major priorities last year. One was doing a general review of the treaty and looking for opportunities to strengthen it. And I understand, there were some key outcomes in e-commerce, in services, trade and services, even women's empowerment, which is a key issue for both Mexico and Australia. The second thing we were able to achieve last year was establishing strategic dialogues with other important groups such as the EU and ASEAN, which just really reinforced, I think, the idea, the importance of CPTPP as a part of the sort of global economic architecture. And then lastly and importantly, we were able to make some progress on accessions. So as you will be aware, Costa Rica is very close to being ready to accede to the CPTPP. Ministers also agreed to commence a process for Uruguay and, as appropriate this year, also look at commencing an accession process for Indonesia, the Philippines and the UAE. We're really thrilled to have more Latin partners within the CPTPP. I mean, Mexico is obviously a real leader in this region, but we see opportunities, great opportunities for further countries joining from this region. And also, obviously, Australia is very keen to see regional partners such as Philippines and Indonesia join as well. In terms of opportunities for further sort of bilateral complementarity, we've talked this morning in our seminar about the opportunities in advanced manufacturing, in critical infrastructure, in energy. And as I mentioned just a few moments ago, we have some very important companies investing. And as Nigel outlined this morning, there are a huge amount of opportunities for Mexican companies to invest in those particular sectors in Australia. In terms of agriculture, we're both great agricultural producers, and I'm been really pleased to see the success that Australian barley and canola producers have had here. In terms of the supply chain, barley being used in beer production, canola being used for canola oil production. But similarly, the other way, we're about to be in a place to start to import Mexican limes, which I think is very interesting for lime producers here. We also enjoy other agricultural products like Mexican asparagus. So ojalá we'll see some more of that trade happening over the course of the next few years.
Excellent, thank you.
Nigel, considering these sectors and the opportunities for greater trade complementarity between Australia and Mexico, it's clear that advanced manufacturing is a strategic pillar in Mexico's economy. From Austrade's point of view, what are other areas have opportunities from your point of view, considering that you are the agency that promotes trade and investment, such as we do in COMCE, but what other areas do you see opportunity for the Mexican companies?
Look, there's already a good base to build from, and it's kind of it's reflected in the imports from Mexico already. We're already major importers of automotive vehicles from Mexico, so that's already a great start. And the strength that you have on your engineering and your manufacturing is a good fit in Australia. We have some initiatives in Australia, two particular, our National Reconstruction Fund and our Future Made in Australia Fund, which is focusing on economic security, sovereign capability, critical technologies were mentioned, agricultural technologies. If you look at our energy transition, we're probably at the start of what is a significant energy transition for Australia, where we're looking to get to net zero by the middle of the century. So opportunities for Mexican companies in transmission, in batteries, in storage, advanced manufacturing as we work through that energy transition is absolutely critical. The ambassador mentioned other areas around medical technology, sovereign capability around areas to do with making sure that when we may have a crisis in the future, we've got that local sovereign capability. We've invested significantly in the last few years in vaccine development. Had some significant co-investment that we did with Moderna and Pfizer to do mRNA manufacturing actually in Australia, and that's been significant. And you're seeing that from the Australian government as we're looking where, from a sovereign capability, economic security perspective, we really need to make sure we're well invested. And so we, at a federal level and also the different states, are taking this as a priority. The other area I mentioned is really important, and I've talked all about the present, is what about the future? We have a significant transition going on right now with critical infrastructure, data centers, AI, quantum computing. We ingest and consume technology and services at such a rate. Often people say to me, we're 27 million people, but we consume technology like we're 100 million people. So the average Australian will have 2 cell phones. They will always want to digest content, And then at the industry level, the banking sector, the defense sector, these are areas, the financial services more broadly, companies are transforming, they're digitizing, and they're investing. So the advanced manufacturing to underpin that is, the timing couldn't be better for a Mexican company to have a look at Australia.
Well, that's great to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nigel, for all the knowledge that you have shared to us. It's very important for our audience to take note of all these points in order to have a strategic information and take better decisions for your businesses. So in order to talk about strategic decisions, transportation and connectivity are important in order to have a deeper and a better trade, educational, and even tourism exchange. So it's a moment to remember that during the 70s of last century, Qantas, that is a very strong and important airline in Australia, had a route that connected Sydney to London via Mexico City. So we want, as Your Excellency said, Mexico is the most important partner in Latin America for Australia. So, Ambassador Mosley, do you think or do you see that it's suitable in the medium term to strengthen air connectivity between two countries in way to support the CPTPP objectives and broader people-to-people ties?
Yes. So thank you for your question, Susana. Air connectivity is something I'm very passionate about. As an Australian who travels between Mexico and Australia, I really feel the length of the trip, having to transit in the United States. The Australian Embassy in Mexico, about a year and a half ago, we invested in a piece of work. We commissioned a piece of work to look at the viability of a direct flight between Australia and Mexico. Knowing, as you say, all of the really important outcomes that start to fall out of a direct flight in terms of people-to-people links, trade and investment. So we did this piece of work, and the outcome was very interesting, that we already have enough traffic between Australia and Mexico to warrant or to support 6 flights a week. One of the aspects of the report that I found very interesting was also around the sort of viability, because we know that Mexico is hot and high, it's at altitude, but we were able to examine the viability of that flight. And indeed, the recommendation was that you could fly Sydney to Mexico City direct with a refueling stop on the west coast on the way back to Sydney. And not only is there enough, interest to warrant a direct service between Australia and Mexico, but when we start to think about the broader region, Central America, the Caribbean, we start to have up to 3 times the amount of traffic required to offer a direct flight. Of course, governments can't make these decisions. You need the engagement of airlines, you need the engagement of airports. And so I've invested, around a year and a half talking to these stakeholders. And I think in the medium term, it could be interesting. It could be interesting to these companies. And certainly I know it's been an issue that the APEC Business Advisory Council feels very passionately about too. And indeed, their board was meeting here in Mexico City last week, and I know that was on the table for discussion. So again, let's hope that we can move this forward, both as a business community and as governments, because we know that there's enough interest to support these direct flights. Indeed, I think there's already about $1 billion worth of freight that's moving between Australia and Mexico using aircraft that are transiting through the US. So perhaps together we can continue to work on this initiative, and thank you for the very important question.
No, we are completely agree, and we think that it's important to support these kind of initiatives in order to have, I insist, better and strategic connectivity. So let's go to talk about livestock. It's another topic. A very specific topic, Mr. Warren. It's very important. It's a very important sector in Australia. Actually, there are a lot of farms in all the territory, in Australian territory. And Mr. Warren, we know that Australia is a global exporter of meat. In this complementarity between both economies, how Mexico can go forward or do a better job in order to help or support a livestock industry in Australia?
Yeah. Well, I think we've already done a good job with the CPTPP. I see that the tariffs and the of frozen and chilled beef have been reduced. Well, that's significant. So I think the promotion of the benefits that have come out of the agreement is a really good starting point. We have a lot of Australian beef exporters very, very active in North America. I was in Toronto a week and a half ago meeting with one of the largest importers of Australian lamb and beef. And when I talked to the suppliers from the Australian side, I think they really just need more awareness, more of the promotion of the opportunity here in Mexico, because they are already exporting into North America. They're heavily exported into the US. Australia is actually now currently the number one source of importation of beef in the United States, because of one of the reasons is the slowdown in US beef production. So there's already great kind of the groundwork has been done. I think we need to do more on targeted awareness, targeted promotion. Access on logistics is huge, significant. So to sort of build off the question on the freight, I lived through the difference in Chile when they added the direct service, and the cargo part of the aircraft is critical. So and when that momentum of that direct service started, the actual value for the Australian exporter was significantly enhanced by the direct service. We actually started off having live animals shipped, believe it or not. Hereford cattle was shipped across on the first line aircraft. So that is critical. So I'd say the air services agreement actually, from a beef production or a chill or a premium product production, actually could have a huge impact as well. But I would say the groundwork has been done through a lot of the negotiations on the tariff side to actually make the market really appealing. And I think also one of the things we've got to really build more exposure to get more Australian companies spending the time here in the market, looking at the sophistication of the retail market, the restaurant market, the premium food market. The timing is really good to do that. And we have a group of companies that we work out that are working with our food team in the US. And we've just started to work with them to say, let's stop and have a look at the Mexican market. There's good opportunity here. So I'm actually positive we can see some growth over the coming months.
Okay, thank you.
Ambassador Mosley, Nigel, thank you for this insightful conversation. What today's discussion makes clear is that Australia and Mexico are not just trading partners, but strategic allies with growing economic ties and great opportunities for the present and the future. I would also like to thank Susana Meza for your outstanding moderation in this insightful discussion today. Thank you.
No, it's our pleasure. Thank you very much, Susana, for your support and for this moment in COMCE Talks. Thank you so much, Ambassador Mosley, Mr. Warren. Our privilege to have you here. Thank you very much for your time, for sharing your knowledge. And thanks to all of you for being with us. So please, at this moment, I'm asking to our wonderful team of COMCE Talks to put on the screen the phone number and the email address where you can contact us in order to have, if you have any question or comment about Australia and the bilateral business relationship, with pleasure we will answer to you all your questions. And please don't forget to subscribe to our Entrepreneurial Bilateral Committee in COMCE, Mexico and Australia. With pleasure, we will be with you and support you in anything you need. So thank you very, very much for everything, and have a wonderful day, and see you at the next one.
Gracias por acompañarnos. Sigamos construyendo juntos los puentes que conectan a México con el mundo.